This month, we are working on understanding some of the basic tenets that Jesus brought to the people when he first began working. And Patrick talked about the gentle power last Sunday, which was very beautiful. And so I'm going to flow with this a little bit as we start to work. So I want you just to listen and let's kind of walk together. I'm starting on chapter 72, and this is the first chapter of Jesus' first year of teaching in Jerusalem and Israel. Prior to this chapter, he has been learning around the world, studying different places. He's met John, he's been baptized, and he's got the 6 disciples that were John's followers. They're not disciples yet, but they're following him. This is the first time he's going into Jerusalem on the official mission. Okay? So, this is Jesus' wake-up call. So, it says that he goes in, and when he reached the temple courts, there were multitudes there to see the prophet, whom the people thought had come to break the yoke of Rome and restore the kingdom of the Jews and rule on David's throne. So he was already famous. People had already talked about this man. John had already endorsed him. So they were already waiting to, who is this prophet people are talking about? Let's go meet him. And they thought he had come to break the yoke of Rome. Just to bring you up to speed, the Jewish community was living in a Roman territory at this point. Israel was governed by Rome. And they were allowed by the Roman government to continue to worship. They were allowed certain freedoms and rights, but they had no freedoms and rights outside the government. They were allowed to impinge their religious rules on their own people. Do you hear what I'm saying? But they felt that they were being persecuted by Rome. So they were looking for a savior that would save them politically, save them physically, from this tyrant Rome that had them in their service. The people said, "All hail, behold the king," and Jesus answered not. Jesus went into the temple and he saw the money changers. This is right off the bat. He comes into the temple and sees the money changers. And we've heard the story about how Jesus threw the money changers out of the temple. But this is kind of what money changers were according to one of the scholars that taught us. If you think that you had to do physical sacrifices, so you're traveling many, many miles, you don't haul your lamb with you. You go to the temple and you have to buy the animal you're going to sacrifice. So let's say a lamb would cost maybe $5 in the marketplace, but you go to the temple to buy a temple lamb. But you can't buy it with your $5, you have to buy temple money. So $5 in the marketplace gives you 2 temple dollars, and the lamb is 10 temple dollars. You've just been exorbitantly charged because you had to convert your cash to temple cash, and now you're paying 4 or 5 times what the lamb would normally have been for the sacrifice. It's not what we would choose to do. It would be like you walk in Sunday and somebody's selling you a seat in the front row that we don't know. Some stranger comes in and says, "I'm going to sell you a seat in the front row." Two available. and what one of us would not say, "Excuse me, who are you? What you doing?" What one of us would not say that? And that's what Jesus does. He goes into the temple and he calls these men out and he says, "Can good and evil dwell together in the court of God? You guys are taking advantage of the people?" Nope. And he drove them out. He overturned their boards. He freed their animals. He just really cleaned it house. So that is the very first thing he does from the get-go. And the rulers get mad at him, of course, and say, "Who are you? How dare you?" And he said, "What loyal Jew wouldn't do this?" And so they had nothing else to say. And the people who had having to pay those high prices were in his favor. Go, Jesus, good job. I don't think they were helping him, but they were applauding as he went. So we have this whole setup, and the authorities are very concerned. So this is what Jesus says from the get-go. I want y'all to hear this. The signs of my messiahship, because they said, are you the king? I'm not the king, he says. The signs of my messiahship will follow me in word and deed. And you may tear the temple down, and you will tear it down, he says to them, and you will tear it down. And in 3 days it will be built again, more glorious than before. What do you think they heard? Jesus meant that they would take his body, tear it down, and the body of the temple of holy breath would rise again. The Jews knew not the meaning of his words, and they laughed him to scorn. And they said, a multitude of men took 46 years to build this, and this young stranger comes and claims he's going to build it in 60 hours. His words are idle. And then they wanted to drive him out, as he had driven out the money changers. And Philo, who was a Hebrew sage who knew Jesus, said, no, 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 hold your horses, guys. You haven't seen this guy. I've seen him do many, many things. You need to back off. And they did. And so they started talking to him again, and Jesus said, prepare, O Israel, to meet your king. You can never see the king while you press sin as precious idols to your heart. The king is God. The pure in heart alone can see the face of God. The pure in heart alone can see the face of God. And the priest said, this fellow claims to be God. Did you hear that? I didn't hear that. This fellow claims to be God. Is this not sacrilege? Away with him. And Jesus said, no man ever heard me say I'm king. Our Father God is king, and with every loyal Jew I worship God. I am the candle of the Lord, a flame to light the way, and while you have the light, walk in the light. So, in this, you can see that the people heard what they were used to hearing. The people heard what they knew. Jesus entered the temple not to break the yoke of Rome. He entered the temple to break the yoke of home. The home in which these people lived had them bound. And they were bound in a way that they could not even see. We're so used to the money changers in our world. We're so used to the money changers in our thoughts. We're so used to doing things and allowing things that are not for our highest and best good. But it's normal. It's up to us to look at it differently. We get used to it. It's normal. But can good and evil live within the intentions of anyone? Can we intend good and evil simultaneously? No, we cannot. So one is going to have its day moment to moment. But we'll never find the good we seek to express unless we stand in those intentions. So he was cleaning up the duality of the Jewish faith. All right. In chapter 73, he tells them, the next day the multitudes were there. This is day 2, guys, day 2. Behold the king. He said, let me tell you a parable. So he tells them a parable about a king who had a vast domain. Everybody was living in peace and happy. After many years, the king said, hey, you guys are doing so good. I'm going to leave. Y'all do your own thing. Govern yourselves, do what you need to do. Enjoy, create, have fun. And of course, he left, and the people immediately began to govern themselves. And they created kings and governors and workers. God, every king needs a worker. So everybody that was equal before is now finding different positions. And then pride, ambition, and selfish greed grew fast. And the kings began to fight war. Everybody needs soldiers to fight war. So we're having this big shift. So they wrote in their statute that might is right. The weak served, the might ruled. A long time passed, and the king looked down and said, oh, they're fighting really bad. What can I do? Shall I send a scourge? Shall I destroy them? Remember, this is a parable. And in his heart the king was stirred with pity and said, I will send forth my only son, heir to the throne, to teach people love, peace, and righteousness. He sent his son. The people scorned him, maltreated him, nailed him to a cross. He was entombed, but death was far too weak to hold the prince. He arose. He took a form man could not kill. He went again to teach the people love, peace, and righteousness. And thus God deals with men. This is day 2. Day 2. He has already told them, the temple's going down. Your temple's going down. The temple I'm living in, I will rebuild in 3 days. Now he has outlaid the entire journey of his life. Day 2. What do you think the people heard? They didn't hear it. How long do we have to hear something before we hear it? You know, Patrick's our poet, our resident poet. However, I was in the car the other day, and sometimes little poems just like drop in and go poof. And that is what it was, word for word. So here's my poem, word for word, that dropped in. I brought my agenda to the place of enlightenment. I waited patiently to observe the new thoughts that I would hear. I rallied in those thoughts that matched my own, and I stayed in that resonance until the end. I was uplifted and filled with joy. My agenda was supported. And I said, "What's the title?" And God said, "The Neophyte." A neophyte is someone just beginning their journey. They do not understand. You can never hear what you do not know until you are ready to hear what you do not know. Every 2020, our vision 2020, even 2020 is not perfect. Hindsight 2020, that's what I'm talking about. Even our hindsight's not 2020 until we can see clearly with open eyes and not be attached to it validating our agenda. We need it to not validate our agenda. Do you hear me? How powerful is this? We have to be able to hear clearly. He told them everything, day 1, day 2, everything they would need, and they could not hear it. And all of us are neophyte in some level or another. Most of us really do need to break down to 0 before we're ever able to hear something different. We break down to baseline 0. If I may. When I met Patrick, I was a teacher. I had just been ordained. I was being ordained. And I'd been teaching for a long time in the Unity Church, and I was teaching the adult metaphysical class, and he came in. Well, I actually greeted you one day before then, but he came in, and then we knew each other for about a year, and then he said, "I wrote this poem for you." I said, "Oh." And he was starting to pursue me romantically, right? So he wrote this poem. Here it is. Listen. Cold was I, slow to waken, till startled by your ardent eyes. Within I felt my soul shaken, and long-forgotten memories rise. In that moment I was taken to a space, lost paradise. No, stand by. There's a rest of a story here. I said to him, because he's courting me, I said, "Oh, what did you say? Did you remember a past life we had together? I'm thinking it's about romance." This morning as I'm preparing, God goes, "Remember that poem? You startled him. You were a teacher. You startled him by what you knew." He was already ordained. He'd been ordained years before and had to go through a divorce, got sidetracked a little bit. But you woke him up to his own soul. That was the lost paradise, was his soul. Did you know that? Okay. I didn't. I kept thinking, you guys all knew that? I thought it was me. But do you guys see? I thought, why won't he tell me what else he knows?
It was a double meeting.
But it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with him awakening to his soul, the true paradise of love. Do you see? And this morning when they showed me, I went, absolutely correct. I can accept that 1,000% and be totally content that I had a part in that. Yay, God. And he stuck with me for 30 years, so obviously the courting worked. But do you see how in that moment the young girl, that young girl, wanted it to be something different? You see? Until we are ready to hear, we will interpret based on what we know. And how often is the speaking points, the knowledge already around us, already with us? So, Jesus did not lead with the people because he knew. He did not come and tell them, you guys realize that, let's say hypothetically, he started at 30. He would be crucified at 33. Those are the numbers we're given. We know what happened. We know what he did. He did die. He did come back. He did resurrect. He did then teach love, peace, and harmony. He did all those things. And within 36 years from that moment when he was speaking, 36 years later there would be a revolt. And between 36 years and 40 years for the next, 6 years, 36 and 40, 4 years. 4 years. Get your math, girl. Next 4 years, the Jewish factions would fight Rome until 70 AD, 40 years after he stood there, and the temple would not stand. The temple would not stand. There would be one wall that remained. It would be leveled. It would be leveled in sieges. There were different sieges that occurred, but you only hear about 70 when they leveled it. Leveled. Your temple's going down. I'm going to take the faith that you have, and I'm going to break the yoke that it has over you, and I'm going to show you about God's love. I'm going to show you about the peace. I'm going to show you about all these things so that you have within you what you need for the resurrection and the continuation of your faith, because you're lovingly faithful to God now. Follow me. Follow me. He didn't tell him. He didn't scare him. But he knew it was going to happen. And do you know what happened to the Jewish faith in 70 AD? The temple was leveled. Do you remember all the sacrifices Jesus said about when he was a little kid? Why are you doing the sacrifices? What's wrong with you guys? God doesn't ask this of you. Guess what ceased in the Jewish faith? Sacrifices. It became more a rabbinical type of faith. And you know what replaces sacrifice in the Jewish faith? Prayer. Prayers replaced sacrifice. Exactly what Jesus taught. It was all going to come about. He knew it. He spoke it. No one could hear it. No one wanted to hear it. Only those that were ready to try something new. And you know what he did the next day? He met everybody on a Sabbath at the synagogue. Or at the temple, I'm sorry. It wasn't a synagogue. It was a temple. And he healed. And he just stood out there and started healing anybody. Anybody coming up, he's healing them, he's healing them, he's healing them, he's healing them. Different ways. Somebody says the word, somebody sends someone. This is the first week he's in Jerusalem. He's healing people. And he goes, oh, no, you need to go wash in the lake and you'll be okay. And to you, I'm going to say the word. And do you believe? You're done. And he was doing it individually to each person. And you know what he was showing them? I see you. I see you. I see you. I see what you did. I see what you need to do. I see you. It was an individual touch of God. It wasn't like take this aspirin to everybody and go home. It was an individual God seeing the unique energy of every person. And because he was healing on the Sabbath, he was criticized. And that's the famous story you all know. Who would leave their animal in a ditch on the Sabbath? Who would not get it out? And you know why he healed on the Sabbath? The scholars teach us. Because that's when the people gathered. They were there on the Sabbath. So that's why he always healed there. They were there. So he starts, don't hold negative, don't make negative okay in your life, guys. Hold an intention. An intention. Hold your good, hold your God intention. Then this can fall away. Do that. God deals with men. How does God deal with men? Does God punish men? The very first parable out of his mouth. No, God does not punish. The king did not punish. God teaches men love and acceptance. This is how God deals with men. And the healing. You are important. You're important to God. Just in those 2 days, if you had an open heart, do you think you'd wake up? Just in the first few minutes he was there. He had the capacity to connect each soul to the power that they would need to live through the next years that were coming, and through the next years that were coming, and through the 2,000 years that were going to follow that. We have to have that consciousness of God in our heart, that oneness of spirit, that love. Okay. We look back and we go, oh, yeah, we can see all that. We couldn't have then. This is one of my favorite things that Jesus says. This is from this is a translation from the original Aramaic, not what is in the KJV, not in the King James Version. This is direct from the Aramaic. And this is in Mark. It's Mark 1, 14 through 15, Dr. Erico's book. This is what Jesus said when he was coming into Galilee, but the message is the same. This is the message he brought to everybody. He said, "The age has ended. This age has ended. God's sovereign presence is here. Everyone return to God and have confidence in the joyful message." That encapsulates what he brought. This age is ended. God's sovereign presence is here. Everyone return to God and have confidence in the joyful message. Now, what would that lead us to if that was our intention? That whatever age we've been through in our own personal life, we can end it. We can end it, just end it. We don't have to drive the evil from our souls. Just end that age. Ends it. It's done. Done. Now I'm going to set a new intention. And my intention is going to be walking in the joyful message of God. How powerful would that be just for us? Then the healings would come naturally. The connection with God would be automatic. I want to stay in the joyful message of God. Sometimes even metaphysicians, we make things hard. Do you guys realize that? Get to that causal thought, man. Get to that causal thought. We need to heal that causal thought. Sometimes we just need to clean the house. Give that causal thought to goodwill and move on. Then the energy of the new intention can be housed. And what if it is just joyful message, the joyful message of God? I want to follow that. Is he asking you to walk on water yet? No. Is he asking you to do anything that's going to hurt? No. But if we walk in that joyful message, what opportunities are in front of us? It becomes unlimited. It becomes this beautiful, unlimited space to see what God has for me, the individual. For me, who had to go wash in the water. For me, who just took the word. For me, who could accept the way it came. For me. This is what they said that I wanted to share with you. In our journey to God, awareness, which we're all on, whether you realize it or not, that's why you're here on this earth. Not in Inner Quest, but on the earth. Journey to God awareness. God meets you where you are, no matter where you are. And there the road begins. There is a gentle release. Move forward. There's a gentle release. Move forward. We're always evolving and changing. Every new thought becomes a source of new life for you. Every new thought that you can have where you're not seeing things the way you think they need to be. Every new thought you have becomes a source of new life for you, just to see something differently. And if that's a new source of life, how beautifully can you grow? Do you all seek new ideas? Do you seek new thoughts? Or do you wait till you've bottomed out? I bottom out all the time. I do. I think it's a human thing to do. When things are not working the way we think that needs to work, I set this up to work. It ain't working. Okay, God, what's happening? And then we cry and get on our knees. I hit my knees all the time. So something new can come in. And when the new comes, it's uplifting. It's a world I've not been in before. And it's this, and it's this, and it's this. And it's a continual rise in okayness, joy, contentment. It's a continual rise of not measuring myself against anything else, just continually saying yes to something new. And if we say yes to greater and greater joy, how easy could that evolution be? Okay. The message this morning is very, very simple. I want our takeaway to be this. You don't know what you don't know. Stop saying no to what you hear. You don't know what you don't know. And when you're getting guidance and you're getting information, don't say no. Write it down. Say, okay, God, I got it. Don't know what to do with it. Well, I'll write it down. I'm going to be with that. Show me a different way to look at it. Show me, God. Teach me, God. Teach me, teach me, teach me. An open mind is teachable. And see things differently. Why did this happen again? All right, let me look at it again. Let me not get mad at it. Let me not throw the same stuff I've always thrown at it. Let me look at it a little differently. See what I can see. Jesus told them everything the very first week. It took 3 years to play out. What have we already been told? And how long do we want it to play out? Sometimes we prolong the play for our struggles. But the joyful message. You feel complete with today? All right, let's do our prayer. And just breathe and feel that beautiful love of Father, Mother, God once again. Feel your heart. And just for a minute, feel a desire to wake up. I want to wake up, God. I want to wake up. I want to wake up to the joyful message. I want to be happier than I am. Just welcome that beautiful light of Jesus the Christ to stand by your side. Even as he looked at each individual, he now looks at you. And see him looking at your soul. You are good. You are beloved. You are precious to God. And in your mind's eye, just take his hand and say, show me what I need to see about myself. Teach me what I need to know. And let your heart soften. If you see something, allow it to come in. If you hear something, listen. I am ready. And feel the softness of your heart. Father, Mother God, we know this path is a path of joy. And just stay in the energy for a moment with Jesus, feeling his love for you, feeling the joy he brings, feeling that potential. And as you let it move through your body, feel your body relaxing even greater. Your love for God, God's love for you, and you are one. Breathe in the ease, the peace, and the light. I do not have to struggle. I choose joy. Feel your gratitude to God, to the universe, and look at Jesus. Feel, sense, or see him there, and say thank you. Walk with me. Help me see what I cannot. Open my mind and eyes. And Father, Mother God, we thank you for this moment We thank you for this expansion in consciousness, and we love you so. Everybody breathe. Let your energy focus come back to your heart, to the chair, to this space. You are in a holy space of enlightenment. You are in your soul. And we are grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. I hope you could feel that beautiful peace coming through you. And it doesn't matter if you got a message or did not get a message during the meditation. You will, because you asked. It'll come in out of the blue, come in sideways, probably today or tomorrow. So just be ready, and when it comes, don't say, yeah, I already know. Because you don't. Say, yeah, God.